Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan Podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Aamir Khan, Salman Khan and Shahrukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
Hi guys, welcome to the Khandaan Podcast from the You Podcast team. Usually we jump right in with our movie reviews, but we got so excited to record, I feel I needed to give you a slight intro. Unlike our usual Khandaan shows, where we only talk about the movies of the three Khans, here we dig into last week's big release Padmaavat, which has been dominating film discussion since it came out. Lots of criticism, think pieces, and open letters flying around, and we wanted to give our thoughts too, less about the movie itself, but more about the reception of it. If you want to just listen to the Chori Chori Chupke Chupke review, you can skip ahead to the 33-minute mark, and that's where you should start landing into it. Also, our poll is up for our next episode, so do go on our site, www.youpodcasting.com, and add your vote. Everybody, thanks for listening, thanks for the support. We've been getting so many shares and likes and discussion going on, and it's wonderful that you guys are enjoying the show. So here we jump right in with our discussion of Padmaavat.
The funniest thing that I heard was, or I saw actually happen in real time, is
Bolly tweets, right?
We were just talking about this.
So she tweeted at Shahid, and she said something completely over the top. So she was like, I can't remember the exact words, but to paraphrase, she said something like, like if it works, then it's because of Shahid. He's amazing. You can't pay attention to anybody if Shahid's on screen. Like, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And Shahid retweeted it. And it was just like, and he quote retweeted it. It wasn't even just like a simple retweet. Like, he actually made like a smiley face or something at it. And like the entire lot of those like really hilariously bitchy crowd of fan people just went to town on him. And I don't know if he actually saw it, because I don't think they were very precious about tagging him in. I think they were like very happy to let him see. But it was hilarious. And that's actually the only thing that I've seen from Shahid in any of this leading up to and after the release of the movie.
I think the whole drama that's going on behind the scenes is more entertaining than the movie itself, which is really, really sad.
Like Asim he's not a fan of any of those three people. or like a outsized fan. I think you like Deepika though, right? Like, but not like, you're not like a fanboy.
No, I'm not a fanboy of either of them, but I like them on screen, Like, I like, honestly, even like in Shandar, I think I liked Shahid in it, Like, it wasn't like the movie was terrible. He was kind of okay. The problem I have is this Shahid, like, he makes 2 good movies. Not even good movies. He gets like half a bit of a critical praise. He gets a semi-hit, and for 3 years he just makes these shitty-ass movie, and he does that every time. Ranveer, I like him on screen. Off screen, I can't stand the dude, And Deepika is great on screen. Off screen, she's just fucking boring. So that's kind of where I stand with these 3,
But you made like a really good point about today. Like, I've seen like other Deepika fans make that point too, which is that Deepika basically, and Aditi, nobody talks about poor Aditi Rao Haidari, who actually was the other person. But the 2 women actually stepped up in the middle of that whole controversy and were like, like, you people are fucking insane.
Yeah.
Who behaves like this about a movie? Like, get a life. And it's not even like, they're not even insulting the Rajputs in the movie. Like, just watch the movie, make up your mind, and then go, attack school children like you want to. But, And then, like, the movie released and all of a sudden it's just like, this is Ranveer's film. Ranveer's film has had the biggest opening ever. Like, it's breaking all these records and it's like, who is even thinking like that? Like, I give the Deepika fangirls like a tough time sometimes, but they actually have a good point in that of the three people who made this film, Deepika is definitely the biggest star out of those three. Like, it's not even a question in my mind. Like, that girl has been not opening maybe, like she has actually. Like, Pico did like pretty good business, I think. So she's been doing like really well at the box office, unlike those other two who are very hit and miss. So I don't really see how this suddenly became just Ranveer's film, but okay. Like, I can see maybe after you see the movie, you feel that way. Like, a lot of people seem to feel that way.
But even like Pink Villa made it, it's Shahid's biggest opening ever. I was like, what the hell? Is it also Jim Sarv's biggest opening ever? Is it Aditi Rao Hedri's biggest show ever? It's just not Deepika's biggest show ever. Like, how is this making sense? And honestly, I'll be honest, I feel it's something that we also perpetuate, as film fans, as audiences and everything like that. Like, there's not one review of the movie I've read where people are not talking about physical aspects of Deepika. That she's gracious, that she's statuesque, that she's stoic. All of these ways to describe what she's on screen, but nobody's really delved into the performance. Whereas we suddenly have a Heath Ledger on our hand with Khijli, with the Ranveer Singh's performance. Khijli. By the way, I found the tweet that we're talking about. Bolly Tweets at Bolly Tweets wrote this. She says, "Just watch Padmaavat. Shahid Kapoor was absolutely fantastic in capitals. The strength and elegance with which he portrayed Ratan Singh was phenomenal. When he was on screen, I couldn't look at anyone else. Every performance, including the powerful Khijli, was underwhelming in comparison."
But here's the thing though, she hasn't seen the movie. This was an intentional troll.
Yeah.
And just to see how Shahid reacts, and Shahid retweeted it, and so it was a trap, and he fell in it.
Yeah, I think Sal Salim kind of said it the best. He says, "This is the greatest scam ever pulled on Bolly Twitter."
I love that little, of the entire fandom wars that take place on Twitter. Like, I love that little clique over there that radiates from Sal, because it's always the most entertaining. But I'll also say that Sal wrote just referring back to what you said, Asim, Sal wrote a review of Padmaavat, which, I don't think they loved it or they hated it, but Sal made a really good point in that write-up, in which they wrote that Deepika is a very natural actress. Like, she's very modern in the way that she portrays her characters on screen, and that doesn't always gel with SLB's style of filmmaking. So the reason why Ranveer gets all this footage, and I haven't seen this movie, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I want to see this movie for a variety of reasons, but I can understand why Ranveer does so well in SLB's movies consistently, from Ram Leela to Bajirao Mastani to this one, and it's because he is very good at projecting outwards, whereas for Deepika, she works really well when it's all interior work. And you kind of see that on screen. So in Piku, for example, you can't look away from Deepika. She is that person, or even Tamasha. I thought Deepika's performance in Tamasha was amazing. But I can see how in Padmaavat, I'm just going to call it Padmaavati because I'm sorry, it's just stupid. So in Padmaavati, I think she's just, I can see how she might not fit that, the logic of that world as well as Ranveer.
I think it's more to do with how SLB wants his world to be, and it's quite evident how partial he is in the treatment, in the love and the generosity that he bestows upon Ranveer Singh compared to everybody else in the movie.
No, he's done that for all male characters, to be honest. Like every male character, like he dresses his heroines well, but the focus of his stories is always on the men. It's always been like that, from Khamoshi to up till now. He makes like, it's not like Yash Chopra when he used to have Yash Raj heroines, like Chandni and stuff like that. He used to present them beautifully, but the story used to also be about women. I don't think that's the case with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, to be honest.
I don't think that's the case with anybody apart from Yash Chopra, to be honest.
I just kind of have that comparison because, when you think about who puts kind of the spotlight on their female characters, and those kind of pop up, and I think Sanjay Leela Bhansali also kind of gets that mantle, but it's not true. His focus has always been on the men.
I read a review, I can't remember by whom, but they were actually very on point when they said, like he should just have made the movie about Khilji and his male lover, because that's actually an interesting movie that he could have made if he had, the balls for it, which he obviously doesn't. But I feel like if you look at the way the camera looks at his male actors versus his female actors,
exactly,
it's very evident what Asim just said.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the songs in Ram Leela, for example, right? Or even, like even in Padmaavat, how Shahid is shot. I don't think there's any of those shots that are about Deepika that way. Except maybe the end scene, the Johar scene, but again, it's like I came out of the theater and I was saying, like, in every movie, Sanjay Leela Bhansali has this shot where there's fire and a woman is being chased by it one way or the other. In Padmaavat, the fire catches up with the women. It's the first time. So I'm hoping this trope is done finally, like setting women on fire. He's been doing it for 4 or 5 movies already. He did it in Devdas, he did it in Hum Dil De Chuke. He's done it a few times.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many things about this movie, sight unseen, that I find problematic. I don't even know how I'd feel after I see it.
Yeah, because I wanted to kind of do a podcast about it. And again, this is technically Khandaan Podcast, but we're still playing with the format. So we thought we'd speak a little bit about Padmaavat because it is what everybody's talking about now. But honestly, I'm already done talking about it in 4 days' time. We're having interviews, we're having online discussions, we're having essays, reviews, and I've been fighting with people about it. People I actually like and enjoy, and it's just funny. I do feel that people that like the movie, how do I say this in a nice way? They're in love with Ranveer, like, in a way, right? They're fanboys of Ranveer, and it seems to be the main fans of Padmaavat, to my kind of thinking. I don't know. I'm a bit outside of it because I'm not in India or anything like that, so I don't really see the local conversations necessarily. But that's what it seems like to me. The people that were already huge fans of Ranveer, they feel validated by this performance, and the rest of the movie, they're okay with all of the problems just because Ranveer gets so much of the spotlight shown on him.
So Sal said the same thing, but in a different context. They said that they were so I think Sal lives in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, but somewhere in the United States. And so they obviously watched it with a Desi crowd, and they said that the crowd in the theater was, by the end of the movie, they were completely on the side of Khilji, and they were just hootering and hollering and just cheering Khilji on. And I have to just assume that it was Ranveer's performance, especially when Ratan Singh, by the sounds of it, was just dead air. So
he was terrible. He was terrible. And I wrote a huge thread about Padmaavat, and I don't think I've ever written such a big thread in my life on Twitter. But yeah, he's just a nonsense character, and there's no reason why
Padmavati should fall in love with Ratan Singh. There's no reason why he is a king, or, why he should, there should be some sort of, equal footing for hero and villain, right? How good the hero is how bad the villain is, But here it's just all one-sided, and that just skews the film.
Let's not sort of make Shahid Kapoor the victim of that. Let's blame who is to blame, and that is Sanjay Leela Bhansali for writing such a shitty, shallow story where your characters are not properly explained, and you don't give us a reason to root for someone just because they say that they are the most purest form of a human being doesn't mean that I have to believe it. So there is a particular scene in this movie, not a spoiler, where Shahid is going on and on about, Rajput ke usool and all that. And this is a scene where Khilji meets him in his mahal, and Khilji just goes, "Tum kitne achhe ho." and that's actually like a very honest expression of how the audience feels. Like, "Tum kitne achhe ho, tum mar jao abhi." It's all Bhansali's fault.
I do wish I'd seen a torture scene of Ratan Singh. I felt it wasn't enough. Like, his humiliation wasn't enough. I wanted, because he gets captured. I don't know how he gets captured, because all of his guards are sitting outside of the tent. So I don't know how they even took him away. But then suddenly when you see him back, he's very aesthetically tortured. There's blood spots at all the right places. I wanted to see those torture scenes, man. I feel I didn't get satisfied enough.
Even that would have been very aesthetically pleasing, because you remember in Bajirao Mastani the scenes with Deepika in chains?
Yeah. Mar dala.
Actually, when you were talking about, how Bhansali shoots his men and Ram Leela and stuff, I was actually thinking about Devdas. Now we're talking about Mandala. Mm-hmm. And, in Devdas, the two big author-backed roles are that of the women, in traditional tellings of the story anyway. And then I know it's Devdas, but then Devdas is a whiny git, and you basically have no sympathy with him whatsoever by the end of the movie. But in Bhansali's version, you could see that the sympathy was, his sympathy was entirely with Devdas, or with Shahrukh, basically.
That's why I don't like that movie at all. That's why I love Dev D and I don't like Devdas at all, because of that reason. Because again, I think they look beautiful. They're shot beautifully, Aishwarya and Madhuri, but those characters are good because those are really good actresses, and more kind of maybe in sync with Sanjay Leela Bhansali wants in cinema. But again, the focus is all on Devdas, the whole getting drunk and going into the water and all that kind of bullshit, it's all about him.
But I will say that is possibly one of the few times that Shahrukh is portrayed as a sexual being. He doesn't actually have sex with anybody, but he is seen as because Chandramukhi sees him as a sexual object. She sees him as her god or whatever, but also a god that she wants to have sex with. So because she sees him as a sexual object, and Bhansali sees him as a sexual object as well, and the camera actually sees Shahrukh as that, because a lot of, they say king of romance or whatever, but a lot of it is very desexualized almost with Shahrukh. He's very few times, a couple of times Yash Chopra's done it. Karan never does it. Karan basically conceives him as a Ken doll. But, which is why, that Kank was so weird for me, because they were supposed to have this big adulterous affair and there was nothing happening. But, in Devdas, you can actually see Shahrukh as, the camera sees him, the way it tracks across his body. and it becomes very blatant by the time it becomes Ram Leela, and you see like Ranveer basically hanging out on his balcony in Ang Lagade Re, like that one.
See, if we go even back to Khamoshi, right? Because I feel probably one of his best and most sensual songs is of Sanjay Leela Bhansali movies is Baahon Ke Darmiyan from Khamoshi.
Yeah.
But Salman is totally wearing a shirt, you know? And I'm sure there was a moment where Sanjay Leela said, Salman, so how about you take off your shirt and we put some oil on your pecs? And Salman was like, chal be. You know? So that's what Sanjay Leela Bhansali needs, you know? He needs somebody that says, chal be, hut. And Ranveer does not do that. He would never do that. And I think that's where the imbalance lies.
Ranveer's, I actually, you know, like in the middle of all this Padmaavat thing, I actually went back and I looked up that song from Ram Leela because I wanted to see if I was remembering it correctly. And he's wearing his dhoti like so low that I'm basically afraid that it's going to like slip off.
Yeah, or the towel with in Savaria, right?
Yeah, but at least the towel actually came off. Like it wasn't even, you know, he didn't even pretend with that. And then I remember
that's kind of abuse though, right? It's his first movie, Ranveer Kapoor. He wants to please like his director, and I think it's just too far, man. I really think it's abuse.
Well, it's funny because Raj Kapoor, when he launched Rishi in Bobby, did the same thing. Like he basically pantsed his own son. And I remember when Savaria came out, like a lot of the publicity stuff around it was basically that, do you remember how like Rishi showed his bum in Bobby? Like now his son is going to show his bum in Savaria. And the movie still didn't work because it came out against Om Shanti Om. And I just remember laughing about it. Because I'm mean.
But again, you know, speaking about all the focus being on the men, Savaria is another good example for that, right?
Savaria is absolutely about Ranveer.
Yeah. So I think that's just like, I think because Ranveer, he's a sponge for attention and love. Like he just loves it, you know. He revels in it. It is. I mean, some people. I mean, it's something that you probably need as an actor, you know. But Ranveer's need for validation is just the highest, I think. And I think it's a bad combination, you know. Like Akshay and Neeraj Pandey are a good combination. Sanjay Leela Bhansali and Ranveer need to stay away from each other as far as they can, because this is kind of just like, this is like a Hancock kind of relationship or something like that, where the world get destroyed.
But you know, like Ranveer, for like all his, you know, his professed admiration for Sanjay, he, like I mentioned this on Twitter to you, Asim. He has zero hesitation in just like throwing Bhansali under the bus in a major way. So he was getting interviewed by Rajiv Masand, and Masand actually brought it up. Like he said, you know, like a lot of people are talking about the portrayal of Muslims in this film, and that it's basically a form of Islamophobia and sort of like, you know, playing into the whole right-wing Hindu narrative about Muslims being savages out to like rape their women. And Ranveer goes, I am not the person that you should be asking this question to. It's Sanjay Leela Bhansali that you should be asking, because I just come in, like I do the character, and like this is the character that I was given, and you know, I just wanted to be like, and then he just sort of like pivoted and like, yeah.
But I think he does that always. Like he always cops out. Whenever there's something interesting or, you know, he needs to take a stand, he always cops out. He copped out when it was about equal pay for women, that round table with Rajiv Masand and Anil Kapoor and Akshay Kumar were there. He's never apologized for, you know, wearing Native American headdresses or dressing up like Ranveer Singh, making super offensive Asian stereotypes. You know, he always does that, and that's why that's what I mean, he annoys me off screen. And no amount of crazy kooky pants and shirts and, you know, that is going to I mean, it doesn't work for me unless that diversion tactics that he used,
I mean, he hasn't really stood up for Deepika and be supportive, for her in her hard time that she's gone through over this movie. Like, she was like threatened and given death threats and all, and Ranveer Singh never seemed to have stood for her.
Yeah. I haven't seen both interviews, but I know he doesn't in Anupama Chopra's one, and he had plenty of opportunities to do that. Did he do that in the Rajiv Masand one? Did you guys watch it? No, he didn't, right?
He didn't even address it. Like, he didn't even talk about it. The Anupama Chopra one I haven't seen, but I guess Ranveer's fan account had clips from that and they were tweeting it out. So I think it was you that tweeted it out, or maybe Ani tweeted it out, and I had to laugh because it was just even you were saying the anti-seduction thing where he was just like, I was so angry when they said those things to Sanjay and they did those things to Sanjay. People had to, keep me back. Mere dost log mujhe
They had to hold me, otherwise I would have done something. What are you gonna do, dude?
And the camera pans and they're like, no friends. But it was like super funny. Like, it is my place of worship. This is the man that I worship. Like, if you really do that, and you might say something now, like, nahi, kuch nahi.
Yeah,
but
and he also kind of says in that Anupama Chopra, because she has 20 minutes or something, and she's wrapping it up like we usually need to do, and she's no, I want to talk. Finally, I can talk in 2 years. I can talk about this movie, so let me talk. And he has nothing interesting to say about the situation. So it works. It works for a lot of people because his audience is very young, I think, and he is a charmer. He's a beautiful man. He's a handsome man. He knows how to play to the gallery, and he's a great actor too. But these diversion tactics he uses are very see-through to me. They're very transparent, at least to me.
The funniest thing is that I read this article in which they interviewed the head guy of this Kanni Sena, whatever they call themselves, the guy who's basically just adamant that they are going to agitate about this movie come hell or high water. And this reporter was like, but why are you so against this movie that you haven't even seen? And he basically, this is what happens. They're like these North Indian uncles. And I'm going to say specifically North Indian uncles. I don't know if this is true for Pakistani uncles also. But ego pe aa jati hai. So he was basically like, apparently they were shooting in Rajasthan and they came to hear, like Kanni Sena, whoever, came to hear that, they were making this movie about Padmaavat. So they sent a message apparently to SLB and said come talk to us and tell us what's up. And SLB never responded. And then they asked Ranveer also, and Ranveer also never responded. And then Ranveer apparently shot his mouth off, they say, and he gave some interview or something in which he was like, like these chota mota people, they just come and like try to make trouble for you, and they they come and hang on you. Like, he said something very dismissive and insulting about these people. And apparently the day that this old man, like this old uncle, read whatever Ranveer had to say about him and his friends, he basically resolved that very day that he is going to make sure that this movie suffers the most and that Ranveer comes to regret everything. And like Ranveer would have to like apologize. But like Ranveer never did, I guess. So this whole thing is about him being angry at Ranveer for being a loudmouth, apparently.
So that uncle is basically the John Wick of India, right? Like, you kill his dog, he's gonna like take your whole town down.
Or just like badmouth his dog, like you don't even have to take.
What are the Karni Sena now doing? Like, it's a huge hit, this movie. I heard somewhere they're making something called Leela Ki Leela, which I don't understand what that means. What does that mean? Leela is Sanjay Leela's mom, right? What does Leela Ki Leela mean?
apparently, I don't know, they're going to make some movie that insults Sanjay Leela Bhansali's mom.
Is Ranveer Singh gonna be in it?
I don't even know. Like, what is wrong with these?
But I mean, if it can be worse than that Ram, what's his name? That God person, the one with the beard.
Oh, Ram Rahim Insan.
Yeah, it can be worse than that, can it? Like, make your movie. Who's gonna go see it, you know? Like, make your movie. Like, who cares?
Exactly.
Are they still in the news? Is anybody following up, asking them, like, it's a huge hit, the movie is out, it was all about brown-nosing, like our friend Anisha said in her review. Basically, the whole movie is brown-nosing towards, Rajput. So, how do they feel now?
Well, they're still like, putting buses on. I guess they're still angry.
I don't think any of them have seen the movie yet.
Oh, I'm sure they actually have, but, they're not going to admit it.
Because honestly, none of their arguments even made sense to me. Like, I was actually listening and trying to find what they were saying, but none of the arguments made any sense.
No, I don't think they were intending to make any sense. I think it was just them being, and the going theory is that this is basically a way to maintain some sort of communal tension leading up to the next round of elections and shoring up a vote bank, basically. Right. And then, using that to basically say that, Hindu khatre mein hai, basically. And
but the way I was kind of thinking, like when it happened last year or the year before with Dil Mushkil and all the Pakistani actors, you got all the Pakistani actors out, but there was still so much hate that it just turned inside towards their own people in a way. Like, hate is just so all consuming, it just cannibalizes your own people after a while. It's
right. Even with the Pakistani actors, it wasn't actually hate. Like, it was, because if it was actual hate, then they would have said something about Ali Zafar, about, I can't remember the name of that actress, but,
Amrita Khan.
No, the other one, yeah.
The one from Hindi medium, you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, if they actually had a problem with Pakistani actors as such, then they actually hated Pakistani actors, then they would have said something about all those people as well, and they wouldn't have given Rais a bit of, like, they were angry about Amrita Khan. They kind of like pretended because they couldn't just let her go after they made such a big stink about Fawad. But eventually they were just like okay with all of that. It was basically just Fawad, and the reason why, like, my theory about Fawad being targeted is that Fawad was actually the first Pakistani actor with an actual shot at being in the big leagues.
It's also the same reason why most of the movies that are about intercommunal relationships or marriages, the woman is always Muslim. Because our women wouldn't get seduced by a Muslim man, right? Because they're pious, they're good girls, hamari desh ki ladkiyan. But Fawad was actually a threat to that, because actually he was actually that good looking. He was actually such a big threat that, people were falling in love for the first time. I don't think there's any problem in women coming over, It's the same thing why when you go to a club, they let the women in for free and the guys have to stand outside,
No, but they don't say anything about Ali Zafar either. Like, Ali Zafar's been in, like, and he was in, like, Dear Zindagi after Adil, right?
But even that was cut. He had a longer role, apparently. They cut it out.
Really?
And he didn't promote it at all. Like, and I think Ali Zafar's star is not shining as brightly as, Fawad's was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the other thing. So, and since then we've not seen Ali Zafar, in Bollywood or either. But there was no issue with Pakistani singers, Rahat Ali Khan was still singing songs, Atif Aslam is still singing songs, so there's no issue there either.
No, but I thought there was a thing against Pakistani singers a few years ago.
It goes and comes, it goes and comes, but like you had what's his name, Ajay Devgan making these big statements, मैं नहीं काम करूँगा Pakistani actress के performance के साथ, and then his biggest song in Badshah Ho is from Rahat Ali Khan, Raksha Kamar. Raksha Kamar. So yeah, it's all basically bullshit at the end of the day, right?
Did you read that thing about Karni Sena basically burning down his theater in Rajasthan because it was showing Padmaavat?
Wow, no.
And it was like literally whoever posted it was basically just wrote karma and who tweeted it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, couldn't have happened to a better guy. So this is basically this entire conversation is basically proof of just how long and how much we'll work hard to avoid talking about Chori Chori Chupke Chupke.
I'm wondering if I should split up the podcast in two or not. I don't know what. The thing is, we're kind of thinking about formats about the show, how should we do it? But I think the conversation was kind of so important that I think we wanted to have it. And we just had a lot on our chest, so we wanted to talk a little bit about Padmaavat. But yes, this is the Khandaan podcast you're listening to. So yes, we picked out the year 2001 in our last 3 episodes, which were kind of the debut episodes. Now every show we're going to be picking out a year on random, and then we're going to let our audience decide. Last time we picked 2001. And the poll was up there for 2-3 weeks, and the clear winner was Salman Khan's, Preeti Zinta and Rani Mukherjee's Chori Chori Chupke Chupke. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week. And I also want to randomly pull up the next year, the next episode's year, so people can vote for it. So shall I do that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Shall we put in our tabla roll music? So here goes. And the year is 2012.
Oh.
2012. I did not expect. So let's see.
Jab Tak Hai Jaan, Talash, Ek Tha Tiger,
Dabangg 2.
Yeah, this is a good year. I'm happy with this pick. 2012. So we let the voters decide which movie you want to pick for episode 6. But now we're talking about Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, guys. So I think we were all dreading watching this movie, right? Nobody really actually wanted to watch it.
I was really dying to watch this movie, and I died by the end.
So this was the 2001 release, starring, as I said, Salman Khan, Rani Mukherjee, and Preeti Zinta. It was directed by Abbas Mustan of Bazigar fame and so many other movies. It was written by Sham Goyal, who seems to be like a collaborator of there, but also Neeraj Vora, who recently died, actually. He had kind of the main story. It's funny when I look at his credits, Neeraj Vora has done quite a few screenplays for movies for a long time, actually, weirdly enough.
But most famously known as Chakoji in Daoud.
Daoud? Okay. And so 2001 was an interesting year. The biggest hit of that year was Gadar Ek Prem Kahani, Ek Prem Katha. You had
not to be confused with Toilet Ek Prem Katha.
Second was Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. Lagan was on 3. Number 4 was Indian, which I have no clue which movie that is. Sunny Deol and Shilpa Shetty.
You should watch Indian because I feel like you would enjoy it. Like you are the target audience for Indian.
I'm feeling that's an insult, but I'll take it, I guess.
Nay, like a lot of people like really like that movie. It's very much off its time, but it's I actually want you to see it and then tell me what you thought about it.
I will actually. I will watch it. Just because you recommended it specifically for me, I'll watch it and let you know how I felt.
We will watch it as part of the Deol Khandaan podcast.
Whenever, yeah.
I would rather die.
Find another co-host. I'm already reluctantly on this one. Amrita's thoughts. Dil Chahta Hai was number 5. Jodi number 1 was number 6. Chori Chori Chupke Chupke came in at number 7, so still in the top 10. It made 18 crore and it was called a semi-hit on Box Office India. So not bad. And honestly, I went back and was reading a few reviews on the time. It was actually quite favorably reviewed, funnily enough. So
that's how bad life used to be back in the 90s.
Yeah. So
like, remember, this movie is like fucking 170 minutes long, and it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Like, it can be wrapped up so quickly, but it just goes on, and like subplots after subplots after subplots.
So, and music was by Anu Malik. Amrita, can you maybe give us a short synopsis of the story? You don't even wanna?
Okay, so it's like there's a couple, that's Rani and Salman, and they come from like this big joint family, happy family, blah blah blah. And then the one thing that the family expects out of their marriage is a child, and especially Salman's grandpa, who's played very OTT by Amrish Puri, who's like hamming up. He's just the biggest ham that you've ever seen. And as he explains to Rani, he needs not just any child, but he wants a child of his own bloodline. And
a male child. They never talk about having a girl. It always is assumed that it's a male child.
Yeah, it needs to be a male child, and it has to be born of Salman's loins. So Rani can't have children because of a tragic accident. So she comes up with a very good plan. She says, go find some girl and get her pregnant, and we'll pretend like I'm pregnant, and then we'll just take the child and say, here, this is the child that I was pregnant with. So Salman goes and improves her idea by finding this hooker and asking her if she'll have their child. And then basically the hooker says okay, and then has the child, and that's it. The end.
This is a weird movie, and funnily enough, I was thinking of Deewana when I was watching this, because it seems that what they were trying to make at that time, they had this idea that this is going to be super progressive. We're talking about surrogacy and all these kind of ideas. But it just seems so regressive because the whole mindset of the movie and the place where it is made at, conceived at, and the people involved with it are super regressive.
Let's not forget the amount of sanskar that went into the whole making Preeti Zinta pregnant. Like, Salman Khan cannot impregnate another woman outside his wedlock without getting drunk. So
no, he doesn't even get drunk. He gets roofied basically. They mix in vodka in his Coca-Cola, and then he gets drunk. He's like, oh my god, I drank some alcohol. Oh, let's just finish this, right?
Yeah, like, but he hired the woman in the first place to get pregnant, and like, he doesn't have the balls to just get on with it.
Okay, we're like going way too far. Let's step. Okay, we'll start with. Okay, I'll just go back to what Asim was saying about this being super aggressive, but masquerading as being progressive, because that's basically the first thing that I thought of as well, which is that there's an entire class of Bollywood films that do this, you know, like they're like, we are being so progressive, like, hamari concept to dekho. And then you watch it and you're like, tumhari concept kya hai? Like, I don't understand, because it's like they hear something and they're like, like, aisa hota hai, aisa ek cheez hai, and we'll make a picture about it, and then, but we don't actually understand it, and we've done like zero research about any of it. So we're just going to do whatever it is that we feel that it must be. So it's like people who just, like, those threads where people are like, all my life I thought this word meant this, but it actually means something else.
Yeah.
That's basically what these movies are like.
Because it's just like Imtiaz Ali making movies about industrialists or musicians or anything. Like, he thinks like, oh, maybe launching a SIM card is something like this with unlimited talk time. So let's Shahid Kapoor do that. He has got no fucking clue how the industry works.
Because also, like, I was screaming at the movie when I was watching it. I was like, this is not how surrogacy works. And then 5 minutes later, I was screaming, this is not how prostitution works.
This is not how anything works, basically.
This is not how people work. This is not how cricket works. This is not like...
Okay, let's talk about the surrogacy angle for a minute, because there's like a lot of gender-related issues in this movie, which I'm sure like some people are going to come and like yell at me for this, because they're going to be like, oh, you know what, it's just a Bollywood movie and it's just Salman Khan, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, point taken. Like it's not meant to be like art cinema or whatever, but in my old age, I'm just sort of really pushing back against this idea of entertainment cinema not being meaningless, or like not meaning anything, or not being anything significant and something that you should just dismiss. Because as we have seen, in very significant ways, popular cinema is basically reflective of, and it shapes public opinion in very significant ways. So like we were talking about Padmaavat and the depiction of Muslims and how it plays into in this specific cultural moment. Like even Padmaavat, you know, they can put 500 million disclaimers in front saying that, you know, like this is just entertainment, it's just a film, you shouldn't think too much about it, blah, blah, blah. But like movies like Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, for a large part of the audience that watches that kind of movie, that is the introduction to the concept of surrogacy.
Yeah. And it imprints ideas in their brain, and as soon as they hear those words, this is the connection they make, you know. Oh, surrogacy, it has to be with prostitutes, you know, you have to sleep with them. I swear to God, this is how people, at least for a couple of years until somebody sets them right, this is how they think surrogacy probably works.
And it's so troubling to me, because it's specifically because it's in a Salman Khan movie. Now, at the time that this movie came out, Salman wasn't the Salman that he is today. He was very much a person whose star was on the wane.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that this #1 Punjabi song was in this movie. I thought it was actually in some Bobby Deol movie that Rani had done, because Rani did like a whole bunch of like B movies with Bobby Deol, basically, like Bichu and all of that. And I thought it was like from one of those movies. And then I saw it in this movie and I was like, oh my God, it's Salman Khan. Like at this point in time, we've moved so far away from that particular Salman of the late 90s and early 2000s that I'd forgotten that Salman was basically flirting with the B-list at that point. And this is a very B-list kind of movie. This is not an A-list movie by any stretch of the imagination, except that, you know, it has like Amrish, like it has an A-list star cast, but the way that, you know, you can see the amount of money they've put into it, and it's not much.
Yeah, this is very much a very low phase of Salman, and I think he only bounced back with Tere Naam after this. So, and this phase has also went on for 4 or 5 years more after this. I think this is kind of also the time where he was having a lot of follicular issues. And they're very much, you can see them in Chori Chori Chupke Chupke. And there's a lot of moments where I just feel he's just not comfortable with himself at that moment. Also, Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam happened 2 years ago. So that means they were probably like a lot of his legal issues and a lot of his romantic issues were probably happening around the same time too, right? I'm thinking that is the timeline kind of matches up, that this was kind of a very, very low phase for Salman Khan. And even for Abbas Mastan, they kind of started with Bazigar, and then they had Soldier, but they were just coming off of Badshah, which was a huge flop for them. And they kind of had Chori Chori Chupke Chupke and Ajnabi at the same time, which kind of, Ajnabi also had this wife swapping kind of angle in it, so they were definitely trying to touch on some societal issues in some way or the other.
And Salman is basically, like you said, he's going through a very low personal phase in his life. I think, you know, he's like madly in love with Aishwarya, but he's also really abusive. He's drinking. I'm sure he's on like steroids at this point, because there's, you know, like it's very obvious in the way that his body transformed. And you can kind of see it in the aging in his face as well. But he's just really messed up, and he's sleepwalking through this film. Like he's not really acting in this film. He's just showing up and he's working on autopilot basically.
Yeah.
And the fact that this movie, and it came out, like you said, in a year when you had Dil Chahta Hai, you had Lagan, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, like all those movies, and then still people chose this movie for us to view in this episode of the Khandaan. Like, it just shows, like, Salman's fan base is basically, it's resistant to everything except Salman. Like, that's what's most important to them. So when Salman comes in a movie where they're talking about things like surrogacy, that actually does affect a lot of people, I would say. And I can't, like, yes, this movie is terrible, and this movie is, that it basically has nothing going on for it. And I tried to give it and I rewatched it with an open mind because so many people said they genuinely like this movie. So I was like, okay, maybe I missed something.
I was surprised too when a lot of people, it got the most votes clearly. It left everybody behind. But a lot of people personally messaged me saying that they really liked this movie when it came out.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about because this movie is just, when you think about it, it's enraging. When you don't think about it, it's just bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's like nothing redeemable about it.
Yeah.
At the time of the release, if you remember, like Bollywood trailers weren't cut the way it was cut. It's getting cut these days. Like internet, YouTube trailers weren't a thing. So I think when like a Z Music would show a trailer for Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, either you would get the snippets of the song or just scenes that were randomly picked from the movie. And I believe that I pretty much watched the whole movie through that, and I didn't really feel the need to watch this at the cinema.
I don't actually remember where I saw it, but I know for sure that I didn't pay to see this at the cinema. There's just no way in hell that I think it just showed up on cable or something and then I saw it. Yeah, but I know that I never saw this. I know I never saw this in the theater.
A lot of times with Salman movies, even in that time, if the movie was terrible, at least the songs could kind of, get you through it. But I was surprised that even the soundtrack was so mediocre. Anu Malik, a lot of times these older composers complain about, aajkal ki music to bekar hai, we used to make music, this and that. But when you listen to a soundtrack like Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, you're like, you killed your own career. There's a reason why you're in the doldrums, why your career is in the doldrums, and it's because of albums like this. It's terrible.
Yeah, Anu Malik was the hottest thing for like a period in the 90s. And then, it's that classic thing that, it happens with pretty much every music director in Bollywood, I think.
Yeah.
Where, they're like super hot and they think that everything is possible. And then they just start either repeating themselves or it becomes like really blatant that they're copying songs of other people, and stealing other people's work. And it just goes down the toilet. And then, it becomes like this thing where they need to salvage their career and their reputation, but no matter what they do, they can't actually do anything about it.
Yeah.
So which was your favorite song?
I had none.
I think I was telling you before we were recording, and we haven't talked about the ladies yet, like Preeti Zinta and Rani Mukherjee yet, but Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, the title track, it was Preeti Zinta comes into this movie around the 56-minute mark. I actually time-stamped it. So it's quite a bit of time that we don't see her, and we're pretty much in this rich family bullshit, which is kind of a overflow from Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. It's kind of, the shadow of Hum Aapke Kaun, just rich family bullshit, having great fun playing cricket and all that kind of stuff. So she comes in 56 minutes, and she almost has that Shahrukh Khan Divana thing where she lightens up the movie again. And for me, the song was Chori Chori Chupke Chupke because she just charms me with that little dance step she does with the hands, and she's dressed like a bride in Switzerland. I don't know why she's dressed like a bride, but that song,
like in her black dress,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Probably like, the first part is she's she's like Audrey Hepburn. The second part, she's as a bride, actually, like a full veil and all that kind of stuff. That she charmed me with it. The way it was visualized, the dream sequence, and Salman looks slightly better. I know that Salman and Preeti in real life are really good friends. So maybe that kind of connect, although he's also really good friends with Rani Mukherjee, it seems. She just charmed me in that song, so that worked for me in a way. But that was the only song. Honestly, I hated the Punjabi wedding song. I don't even know the name of the Punjabi wedding song. I'm just calling it the Punjabi wedding song. And it was funny because this movie is so lazy. Apparently he's gone to a friend's wedding. They never mention the name of the friend. He never comes back again. And he was probably some producer's son or some gangster's son or something like that. They just put him in the song for a second. They don't even give him a name.
No.
There's like this little bit of a joke where there's a baby and Rani Mukherjee is holding the baby, and they don't name the baby, and she gives the baby back to her mom and she says, "Ye samjha, ye bachcha mera hai." Like, she's the auntie of that child. You would not say ye bachcha to your nephew. You would give him a name like, "Oh, samjha ke Suraj mera bachcha hai." That's how you talk. That's how normal people talk. You don't say ye bachcha, ye wala bachcha. It's so lazy.
Yeah.
And when they go to Switzerland and Rani Mukherjee says like, "That's my nephew." Oh, and his nephew's like, "Oh, mere bacche ka mundan hai," and all that. That's actually Rani Mukherjee's brother in real life.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
That's Raja Sen.
Really?
Raja Mukherjee.
What's amazing is like, so this cousin of, the supposed cousin of Rani's character that shows up at like this very inconvenient time, he's supposedly married to like a white lady. And it's literally some lady that they've gotten off the street in Switzerland who's just like standing there like, what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah, she's like, "Am I the Uber driver? Am I married to this guy? What's my backstory?" Just a random lady, just come with us.
And
Like,
why
he's not
he
even
haven't
an
written in
actress.
Switzerland?
Because he's sanskari, beta.
Oh, God.
But yeah, it's just, yeah. But anyway, shall we talk about like Rani and Preeti?
Yes,
And like,
let's do that. Let's do that.
So, like Rani and Preeti, they were a thing. Like, they were like a very successful duo. Like, they were like Amitabh Bachchan and Shashi Kapoor of the late 90s and early 2000s, which is funny because apparently they didn't work in that many movies together, but
No,
people
they did, right? Yeah.
a lot of them. Yeah,
I think
it
that was the whole thing because of, that song Piya Piya O Piya from Har Dil Se Pyar Karega. That just went in its own sort of era. It went viral, as we would call it now, but it just took over the whole imagination of the nation, with Rani and Preeti being close buddies and dancing around, and and the song was sung by sisters as well. So.
And it was just, it's just funny to me because it was a very open secret that the two of them couldn't stand each other.
Oh,
and
really?
of course, yeah, like they really didn't get along very well at all. I think Rani basically had a problem with pretty much every woman friend that she had in Hindi cinema, but most famously with Aishwarya Rai, actually.
Really?
But,
I don't know any of these things. Really? Okay.
Wait, you didn't know about the Rani Aishwarya thing?
No. What is this?
When? How?
Oh, so this is, there's two things. So one is, around the time that Aishwarya and Salman were going through a breakup and he was basically making her life miserable. So Aishwarya was cast in Chalte Chalte with Shahrukh, and, Salman showed up on the sets and started screaming, and he thought that Shahrukh and Aishwarya were having an affair and everything, and created a big scene. And that's when Shahrukh basically said, "You know what, I'm sick and tired of being in the middle of all this nonsense." Because apparently they'd also gone through a version of that on the sets of Devdas as well, and he was just like, "You know what, I can't deal with this bullshit." And Shahrukh, being a feminist, told Aishwarya that she was fired. and that she could basically pack her bags and leave because it was just too much trouble. So that's what Aishwarya keeps me talking about. She doesn't talk about it. She's only ever talked about it once, but she's talked about the fact that Salman's behavior cost her jobs. But that's basically what she's talking about in particular. So Shahrukh fired Aishwarya and then hired Rani instead. And Rani and Aishwarya were friends at that time. So Aishwarya was really mad at Shahrukh, at whom she considered a friend, and at Rani, whom she also considered a friend, for basically kicking her while she was down. And that was like a thing. And then later, Rani, this is all scuttlebutt. I have no idea if any of this is true. It just seems very likely. But Rani and Abhishek were acting together in a bunch of movies, and this was after he and Karishma had ended their engagement. And a lot of people were talking about how she and Abhishek were an item. And this is after Rani had stopped dating Govinda. So they were like, Abhishek and Rani were an item. And then I think Rani actually thought that they were going to end up married, except Abhishek basically dropped her, started dating Aishwarya, married her, and then didn't even invite her to the wedding. So it was just like, this whole cycle of what's happening between Rani and Aishwarya.
Oh wow! I had no idea of all of that backstory. I did think that. I think Abhishek and Rani on screen in Bunty and Bubbly are and even in Yuva are probably the best duo. I mean, they go really well together. Better than Abhishek and Aishwarya have ever been on screen, to be honest. So maybe in Yuva, they're magic together. She actually makes him look better than he is. Yeah. I think. Bunty Bubbly too, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But Yuva in particular, I think. I think Yuva is probably my favorite performance by Abhishek.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, but, interesting. So yeah, they don't get along.
Yeah, no. And then, of course, Karan Johar, being a messy bitch, invited the two of them on the show. And was just like, I hear that you don't get along. And the two of them were like, what? Who told you that? We're like, okay. We're not friends, but, we're like good co-workers. And he was just like, yeah, everyone knows what that means, baby. So, yeah. Wow. Karan does have his uses, I have to say.
But it's like Narad Muni.
Yeah, he really is.
So, and what about Preeti? How was, because I'm a huge Preeti Zinta fan. I like her. I like her a lot. On screen, she's great. And even this movie, I really feel she's the one that saves it.
Yeah, so this is like the peak of the bubbly Preeti Zinta face, which apparently Preeti had a real problem with. She really hated being known as the bubbly character. The thing is, she actually was. I have no idea why she had a problem with that, except I guess she thought she just wasn't getting offered the parts that she deserved. But she has a lot of screen presence. That's basically how she became famous in India. She was in this ad for a soap, and she was just infectiously charming when she was on screen.
The Lyrill ad.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And also Cadbury's Perk.
Yep. And her first movie offer was actually by Shahid Kapoor. So, and it was for that movie that never got made. But that's how she eventually ended up making a debut in Dil Se.
Because also she seems to be getting all the between kind of bold roles, she had that Kya Kehna where she was a single mom. And now she has Chori Chori Chupke Chupke where she's playing a surrogate mother. So I don't know if she just seems to be a bit more fearless than the actresses, contemporary actresses of that time. And I feel she's taking these roles, or people are casting her in these roles where maybe other actresses wouldn't be willing to do it.
I mean, speaking of bold, she was the only one to speak up against, she was the only one who said, the producers involved with all the underworld money for this movie. She was the only one who went to court and only one to confess, and nobody else came up here.
Was it for this movie?
Yeah, both the producers were jailed, I think, for laundering mafia black money, and even the release of Chori Chori Chupke Chupke was delayed because of this. And I think like Sujoy mentioned, she testified against the producer of this movie that indeed black money was involved. So yeah, good on her. So also the Preeti Zinta plot line suddenly evolves into a pretty woman ripoff.
Oh my
Pun
God.
intended. See what I did there? See what I did? A pretty woman. Is everybody getting it?
No. Can you repeat that again?
Hey, I prepared this one. This is the only joke I prepared for the whole thing.
Asim is getting some practice for like when he has to make dad jokes for his daughter.
Yeah, I've been practicing. I'm a bored dad. Ye bacha.
Put that bacha in his house.
I love why she goes like, अपन का एक ही उसूल है, मैं होठ का चुम्मा नहीं देती.
And then like goes to the store and like the lady won't sell her clothes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also there's a scene where she learns table manners from Salman Khan, and their table manners are taught by eating cake.
Who eats cake with like a knife and fork?
And still does a terrible job at it. Like it looked like neither of them had any table manners.
Salman cutting the cake is like literally like takes a knife, cuts it like he's cutting birthday cake, and then like stabs it with his fork and eats it. So, like, that's not how cutlery works, first of all.
Another thing though, like nobody's seen Salman's picture anywhere, right? Like in this universe. So Raj Malhotra is a very famous industrialist, and when Preeti is like denied shopping at this mall, and then Salman brings her back, and he's like introducing himself as Raj Malhotra. Everybody recognizes just like Raj Malhotra is a fucking common name. Just saying I'm Raj Malhotra, and the owner of this clothes shop is like, oh my God, Raj Malhotra, the second coming of Jesus, you're here. And then he brings all the clothes, and Preeti doesn't even buy a single one.
It's also funny because like everybody, like because he meets her up in a bar and then he takes her to a hotel. And everybody seems to be shocked, like, oh my God, this rich millionaire with a prostitute? Like, that's what rich millionaires do in a hotel. They have prostitutes. Like, who is surprised by this? I don't understand. Like, why is it, oh my God, iske saath? Like, what is going on?
And how much cash does he carry? Like,
I know.
How much cash does he have?
When she tries to like stuff the bills in her blouse, and she's like literally taking like wads of cash. Like what? But also, did you guys notice the super sanskari way in which he enters the bar where she's dancing? He like almost bends double and like sort of slips in as if he's like sneaking into like, I don't know, like a drug dealing den or something. And then like stands there like sort of hunched over while she's like dancing and like shaking her booty in his face. And I'm just like, I don't even understand what is happening.
Yeah, that's when I was screaming, this is not how prostitution works, you know? It's not like how drugs work. Nobody needs to push prostitution on you. Nobody needs to convince you of taking drugs. It sells itself. It sells itself.
And unless you're super sanskari and like, you know, love your wife so much that you're willing to like sleep with another woman and get her pregnant.
By the way, from now on, this is how I'm ending every meeting I'm in. Sorry guys, I'm missing my wife too much, and just leave.
Oh no.
No, with the accent, sorry guys, I think I'm missing my wife.
comes and goes like 5 times in a scene.
What is with that accent? Okay, let's try to track down where Salman got that accent from.
I don't know when it started. But I think probably started when he started dating Aishwarya or Somi or somebody. Probably Somi, right?
Oh Jesus, Somi Ali.
Yeah.
I think this is something we need to definitely investigate, but I think it's not something we can figure out. We need to go back. I want to know now. I do. I'm on a mission.
Asim, Sujoy and I will do anything as long as we don't have to talk about this movie.
You know what I also like? They go to these foreign locations to shoot these songs, and this is back in the day when they clearly had no permission or anything like that, because you have a lot of Gora's background just kind of like staring at them. There was even one Gora that started clapping on the beat. And but the funny part of all of this is they don't have any choreography whatsoever. We have a staircase, just do what you do, just sway on the music.
And like the song they choose to dance to is also not a very dancey song either.
Yeah.
The Dil Tera Mera Dil Jhume Re Jhume, and they're like dancing on the street, all three of them together.
It's so awkward. I was like, I had second-hand embarrassment just by watching it, like, what is going on?
I used to wonder if like they actually got embarrassed doing that shit, because imagine like just going to like some random country and like doing that in the middle of the street, but nobody ever seemed to address it. Like the only person who's ever said anything about it is once Lara Datta on Coffee with Karan said that she was shooting for a Telugu movie in Oxford, and they were basically going down the river singing and dancing on some boat, and basically everybody in Oxford was just like, what the hell, like what's happening here? And she was like super embarrassed because it was Oxford and everything, but apart from that, like nobody's ever said anything.
But that's right. If you go back and watch like Sona Kitna Sona Hai and Govinda and Karishma Kapoor dancing on the street of Switzerland, right? Like they are full on, all out.
Yeah.
Both of them are like total besharams, you know that, right? They're like
no
total
inhibitions,
besharams.
no inhibitions at all. Like.
But go back and watch, I think the song is Chunari Chunari with Salman and Sushmita Sen. You can see Salman's embarrassment on it. 100%. Go back and watch and just look at Salman in the crowd scene. He is totally embarrassed about what's going on. So, yeah.
Okay, let's just go back to Preeti and Rani, because I want to talk about like how horrible it is in terms of the movie, like what's happening to the Preeti character.
Yeah.
Because I have so many thoughts about that. Like, I'd forgotten, or I basically wasn't paying attention the first time around, but so what happens is Salman finds Preeti on his own, and then calls up Rani all excited and says that, hey, like you wanted, I found a girl who like have our baby. And Rani says, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you found another girl to have sex with. And then she says, whatever, like she must be a very good person. And she doesn't know that Salman's basically going to pay Preeti and like she's a hooker. So Salman lies to Rani and says, yes, she's a very good girl. And then Rani says, as long as she's sanskari, like, we don't need anything else. and Salman is like looking at Preeti, who's like trying to do like a Scrooge McDuck kind of thing on piles of money.
She's indecent proposaling at that moment.
Yeah. And Rani, and then he feels guilty because he's like, he's like an Adarsh Pati. And he tells Rani, there's something about her that I haven't told you. And then Rani, without missing a beat, says, I know what you want to say. She's poor, right? And my jaw was on the floor. I was like, what the hell? Like, are they just basically saying that poor women have wombs for sale? Like, what the hell? Like, the classism in that scene was just intensely horrible.
I mean, the logical leaps this movie makes are just dizzying. Like they just kind of collate all of these things together, because she's a prostitute. Obviously, she wants to, be pregnant for 9 months and then also have a baby and then give that baby away. That makes no sense whatsoever. And plus, even before he gets to Preeti, he's pretty much eyeing every woman is out there. He sexually harasses his secretary in the office. Then he sexually harasses the marketing manager of the company he's working with because they're apparently launching this great product.
And it's supposed to be funny. Like, all of that is supposed to be funny. Like, ha ha ha, look at him. And I'm like, it's not funny. It's just horrible. I don't think it would have been funny when it came out in 2001 either. Like, I don't remember having seen any of that, but
the one scene that I did find funny for the first 30 seconds in terms of setup is when because he thinks that Rani is a mother of a child already because ye bachcha kiska hai, that thing. So she comes in with her bhabhi. And then Salman is thinking that this arranged marriage setup, he's going to get married to the bhabhi instead of Rani because obviously Rani already has a child. So that setup was funny, but then it takes such a horrible turn.
I know.
It was cringeworthy how much body shaming happened within the first 3 minutes. And poor lady, whoever's playing the bhabhi, who's probably a talented actress or an actress that has probably a career, that she has to kind of take this kind of abuse on celluloid. Like it was horrible to see. And I was like, man, and this is kind of the sanskari way of having an arranged marriage, and arranged marriages are terrible if they are done this way.
Yeah, he basically calls her old, fat, and ugly, and then and all three of them are just relieved at the end because they're just like, oh, not her, not the fat, ugly one. We'll marry the other one, the new one, the pretty one.
Yeah, the pretty one that does badminton, judo, karate, cricket, and all that. Like those. Ye sare khel khelti hai na, judo, karate, badminton, swimming. Like she does none of that. It's bullshit. Suman did. Suman was a champion, man. We saw her. She had a.
But Himalaya took her away.
But the other thing that happens during this, in terms of the logic of this film. Okay, first of all, there's that whole surrogacy thing. So that's horrible and disgusting. But the other thing that happens, accepting the logic of this movie, okay, let's say that we are fine with all of the things that it says. We are fine with this concept of surrogacy where you have to sleep with this person and get them pregnant. Let's say all of that is fine. What happens during this film is, so here is Preeti, who is alone in the world. She has no family, nothing. She does, she basically dances in a bar and has sex for money, not because she enjoys it, but because she needs the cash to survive. And they give her, they present her with this business proposal, and then they basically integrate her into their family, show her what this life is like. And it's especially horrible because she is experiencing this family through Rani. So there's two women, they're the same age and they're having sex with the same man, and they're basically on an equal footing in like whatever is happening in their personal life. But then this one woman has no idea of what family life is like or what it feels like to be a sheltered, innocent girl who has never had to worry about, where her next meal is going to come from. And Rani is basically just waxing lyrical about what family life is like and how other women might have horrible mothers-in-law, but she's basically beloved by her mother-in-law, her father-in-law, her grandfather-in-law. Like, everybody loves her. She has nothing to want. She has this husband who loves her so much. He's having sex with her, this other woman for her sake. Like, there's all this stuff going on. And Preeti is basically, she's a vessel for carrying the baby, and these two keep telling her how much she's like a friend to them and like their sister and all these kind of things. But she's always with she's like the orphan child with her nose pressed to the window, looking inside. And there's no acknowledgement from either like Raj or Rani's character that what they're doing to Preeti's character is actually kind of emotionally really cruel.
At the end, they get away with it. You know, there's no moment where the family gets to know what they did, or they, say, oh, this Preeti girl that was helping us, she was a good girl, or whatever happened to her. There's no consequences whatsoever. Rani and Salman both get away with the horrible, terrible scheme that they had hatched for a whole year.
It's just so maddening.
Do we want to talk a bit about the supporting cast and the family setup, which is horrible? Like they're basically a joint family, right? So we have Amrish Puri, but we also have Dr. Saab Uncle. With, like, it seems every movie around that time had a Dr. Uncle Saab, right? So here, he's like played by Prem Chopra. Which is, I just, like, when I see these guys, I just expect some sort of villainy, right? And all of these, we also have Johnny Lever, in the worst Johnny Lever phase ever. Was this cameo in Judwa 2 recently, or which movie did he do like a short cameo in? It was Judwa 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was happy to see him. At that time when I watched him, I was like, oh, Johnny Lever, I haven't seen him in 10 years. But now actually seeing what Johnny Lever used to do back in the time, I was like, fuck Johnny Lever, man. I can't stand this guy. Playing, comedy uncle. And they all of the family is presented at the start of the movie as in kind of a rich and famous show, some kind of video interviewing format that they put in there. I don't know what that show is supposed to be a spoof of. And it's funny because the whole family is very convinced that Johnny Lever's shtick of calling ministers is very, very funny, because that's one of the first things Rani Mukherjee tells Preeti Zinta about her family. He's like, mere pappu bhaiya, he can call the minister when the water isn't working. So, yeah, it's just, again, lazy movie, lazy writing, terrible comedy, terrible. This family is terrible. Like, the moment Rani Mukherjee has an abortion, she has a miscarriage, she comes back from the hospital, everybody is talking about the next child she'll be having. Like
it is within a year.
Within a year, Farida Jalal goes like full pudo bhalo and all that kind of stuff. It's like, come on, guys, have some sensitivity. Like, what is going on?
The best part is that after Preeti has the baby and she gives the baby to Rani and Salman.
Yeah.
And Preeti's been living with this family for a while. So the story that they've been telling people is that Rani and Preeti are both pregnant and they became really good friends. So now for some reason Preeti is also going to stay with them until she has the baby. And then they both have labor on the same day, and Rani's child survived and Preeti's died. So Farida, who's like mothering Preeti, goes to Preeti and comforting her says, and I swear to God, this is not a joke, she says, I'm so sorry, darling, that your child died, but look at us, like this happened to like Rani also, but look, within a year her life has changed and she's got another baby, so you will have another chance as well. And I'm just like, what? Who says that to somebody in a hospital bed whose baby just died?
Because this is the same family. When Rani Mukherjee comes back, the bhabhi says, "Yaar, miscarriage so choti si baat hai." Like, what? Like, in what world is miscarriage a choti si baat? Like, how? It's terrible. This family is terrible. And the movie plays them as a good family. This is what a family should be like, right?
Yeah.
Because there's never ever a moment where all of their behavior is, even alluded to that it's toxic, basically. It enraged me. This family.
The bhabhi actually says that, miscarriage मामूली सी बात है. मेरी एक सहेली का miscarriage हुआ था. अभी उसके 4 बच्चे हैं.
4 बच्चे, एक भी नहीं लाएगी. 4, सारे लड़के हैं. ये बच्चा सारा लड़का.
Oh man. Yeah, we used to have movies like that.
Yeah.
So basically, this movie is terrible. Everybody in this is terrible.
It is. It's a terrible movie, and guys, I kind of hate you for the guys that picked this movie to make us watch it.
Seriously, guys.
We thank you for the interaction and the support of the podcast, but we kind of hate you guys.
Please stop.
So I think we can wrap this episode up at least. I don't even want to do the nostalgia meter and all that kind of thing. It's just terrible, right? We're putting it 0 or all 3, right? I don't think even Salman Khan fans need to watch this movie. There's tons of other ones that you can watch. Maybe just watch Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, the song on YouTube. I think that's the only thing this movie deserves.
And if you have some sort of nostalgia, like you haven't seen it in 20 years, but you think like, oh, I enjoyed it when it came out, you should watch it again. Like those are the only people that need to watch this again so that they can reevaluate like everything.
Yeah. So I guess that's it for Khandaan Podcast for this episode. Like we said at the start of the episode, we picked 2012 for next episode. So you have a choice of Dabangg 2, Ekta Tiger, Talash and Jab Tak Hai Jaan. Hopefully you guys pick a better movie for next episode. Guys, Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Amrita IQ.
Sujoy?
I'm on Twitter at @93K.
Great, and I'm at Asim Bernie. You can follow us at upodcasting, or you can drop us an email with your thoughts at upodcasting@gmail.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks, so we'll leave you 1.5 week to kind of vote on the movie. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new show. Thanks for listening, everybody.